Imagine, like, packing up your entire life, liquidating all your assets, moving across the world, and joining what you think is going to be this perfect utopian commune.
Right, you're expecting this tight-knit support system,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get to the gates, expecting open arms, maybe some mentorship, but instead, the leader looks right at you and says, we will not help you. We will not cultivate your talents.
Wow.
Yeah. And they say, if you fail here, that is entirely your problem.
It's basically a complete inversion of what human beings instinctively crave when we gather together, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, we are hardwired to look for safety nets. We want the collective to protect the individual. But the framework we are looking at today is actively hostile to that idea.
Yeah, totally.
It essentially treats the concept of a safety net as almost like a spiritual flaw.
And that's what brings us to today's deep dive. We are dissecting this deeply provocative essay from March 2024. It's by a writer named Shufeng.
Right.
And he is outlining the foundational philosophy of a community called Lifechanyuan.
Along with their physical settlements, which they refer to as the second home.
Yes, the second home. And just to put our cards on the table for you listening, reading this text feels like getting hit with a bucket of ice water.
It really does.
It just shatters every modern assumption we have about, organizational support, personal development, and really just what we owe each other in a shared space.
And that is exactly why this text demands a close reading. Because whether you view this ideology as incredibly liberating or, well, terrifyingly cold, it is not arbitrary at all.
Right. It's very deliberate.
Exactly. Xuefeng has constructed this meticulously logical framework. Every single harsh rule is derived from a very specific, uncompromising view of how the universe actually operates.
It really forces you to examine those hidden expectations you carry into your own workplace or your family or just any group you choose to join. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the foundational shocker of this essay is that Xuefeng outright declares that Lifechanyuan will absolutely not cultivate people.
Not at all.
No, they won't train you, they won't develop your skills, they won't help you advance. And to justify this, he lays out 3 core arguments.
And that first one really hinges on a concept he calls the way of the greatest creator.
Right. Yeah. What exactly does that mean in the context of this specific community?
So in Xuefeng's philosophy, the way of the greatest creator is basically synonymous with the raw, unfiltered laws of nature.
Okay.
It is this form of absolute biological and spiritual determinism. His whole argument is that everything of value is created by nature.
I see.
Therefore, true talent, true capability, it's all completely innate. You either possess a specific energetic resonance and ability from the very moment you exist, or you just don't.
So they are completely rejecting the entire premise of neuroplasticity, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or the idea that you can learn to be great at something just through sheer grit and practice.
Entirely. They view our modern obsession with self-improvement, like the idea that you can manufacture a skill set in a classroom.
Right, or mold someone into a leader through some corporate training seminar.
Exactly. They see that as not just futile, but deeply arrogant.
Arrogant.
Yeah, because it's an artificial interference with nature. The thinking goes, if a seed is genetically programmed to be an apple tree, no amount of watering or mentoring
is going to turn it into an orange tree.
Exactly. You just can't force it.
Which brings us to the second reason he gives, which uses this really specific farming metaphor. He says the mission of a guide in this community is only to harvest ripe crops, never to plant them.
What's fascinating here is how brilliant that metaphor is for explaining their complete removal of institutional liability.
Yeah, let's linger on that for a second.
Well, think about how a university or a corporation operates today. Their entire business model is planting and fertilizing.
Right.
They take an unripe seed,
yeah,
a freshman or a new hire, and they pour resources into them.
Hoping to grow them into something useful eventually.
Exactly. But Lifechanyuan operates more like a combine harvester, just driving through a wild field.
A wild field, yeah. Right.
The guide looks at you. If you are ripe, meaning you already possess the spiritual maturity and the practical capability, you get harvested into the community.
And if you aren't ripe?
They don't water you. They don't put up a little stake to help you grow straight. They literally just walk right past you.
Wow.
Your readiness is entirely on you.
It's basically the ultimate open mic night.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like you walk into a comedy club, the venue has turned on the lights, they've set up the stool, the microphone is plugged in, they have provided the stage.
Right, the infrastructure.
But nobody in that venue is going to sit down with you and punch up your jokes. Nobody's going to pull you aside and teach you comedic timing.
No, definitely not.
You walk up to the mic And you either command the room and get laughs, or you just bomb spectacularly in front of a totally silent crowd.
Mhm.
Climbing what Su Feng calls the highest peak of life is strictly your own business.
They just own the comedy club.
Right. Lifechanyuan just owns the comedy club.
That analogy captures the exact mechanism at play perfectly. They provide the geography, but they absolutely refuse to provide the momentum.
Which leads right into his third point.
Right. Lifechanyuan explicitly states it is not a charity, nor does it consider itself a standard organization.
Because they don't view themselves as an institution in the traditional sense, they argue they have zero obligation to act like one.
Exactly. They are simply a gathering place for people who are already fully formed.
Okay, but this philosophy, this extreme reliance on innate nature, it creates some pretty massive logistical questions.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to transition from the theoretical side to the intensely practical side for a minute. The essay refers to all the members who managed to join as pioneers of the era.
Yes, pioneers.
But earlier, you mentioned that joining this community isn't about traditional utopian goals, like, building a perfect earthly society. So what exactly are these people pioneering, and what are the stakes?
This is where we have to decode some of Wei Fin's specific jargon. He states that the sole purpose of these pioneers is to repay accumulated debts and gather resources to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Okay, let's pause right there. When he says accumulated debts, I assume we aren't talking about underwater mortgages and student loans here.
No, not at all. This is a deeply spiritual, karmic concept.
Okay.
The philosophy operates on the premise that individuals enter this world carrying a deficit, like a spiritual baggage or karmic debt accrued over time or even past existences.
Right.
So your time on Earth, and specifically your time at the second home, is essentially a crucible meant to just burn off that debt.
And what about the kingdom of heaven part?
Right, so it's not necessarily a localized place in the clouds with golden gates. In this specific framework, it represents a higher frequency of existence.
Like a state of enlightenment.
Basically, a state of ultimate spiritual refinement and liberation from earthly suffering. Yeah. But the crucial mechanism here is that this refinement can only happen through extreme individual effort.
Meaning, you can't just piggyback on someone else's enlightenment.
Exactly. You are on your own.
And because the stakes are that high, like we're talking about your literal spiritual salvation, the title of pioneer comes with this brutal, completely non-negotiable rule.
Yes.
The text says, quite bluntly, that if you ask Lifechanyuan for help to help yourself, you are directly contradicting the very nature of being a pioneer.
It is a fascinating psychological filter, honestly.
It really is.
Because in almost every other human gathering, asking for help is considered a virtue. It shows vulnerability, it builds trust, it creates the very fabric of social cohesion.
We literally teach children that the smartest thing they can do is ask for an adult's help when they are lost.
Exactly. But Su Feng flips that completely.
Yeah.
Here, asking for help is actually a disqualifying act.
It's proof that you are an unripe crop.
Exactly.
The essay uses this hypothetical scenario that I just find absolutely wild. He says, imagine Lifechanyuan establishes a new farm in Canada.
Oh, yes, the Canadian farm example.
Right. They acquire the land, the stage is set, it's this beautiful new opportunity for the pioneers. But if you want to go to that Canadian farm, getting there is entirely your own problem.
Completely on you.
They won't buy your ticket, they won't help you navigate the visa process, they won't even send a shuttle to pick you up at the airport.
Right. Because if you require logistical assistance just to arrive at the stage, well, then you obviously lack the innate capability required to perform on it.
Wow.
The organization's response to someone saying, I want to come, but I can't afford the flight, is essentially that you don't come. Nature has decided you stay here.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I am struggling to see how this works practically once people actually arrive.
Logistics again.
Yeah. Because if you survive the filter and you made it to the Canadian farm, you still have to run a functioning society on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And this leads to what the text outlines as their policy on specialized skills. I'm just calling it the potato and cow rule.
The complete rejection of deliberate planning. This is where the philosophy rubs raw against the actual reality of physical survival. Su Feng writes that Lifechanyuan will never deliberately cultivate political, diplomatic, tech, or financial talents.
They aren't trying to engineer a diversified, robust economy at all.
No, not even a little bit.
The text literally says if everyone who shows up only knows how to grow potatoes, then everyone just grows potatoes. If they only know how to raise cows, the whole community just raises cows.
It's incredibly literal.
Now, I have to push back hard on this,
Hmm.
because human civilization exists specifically because we force specialization, right?
Sure.
We train plumbers, we train surgeons, we train engineers, often totally against their natural inclinations, because a society needs those functions to survive.
Absolutely.
If you put 200 people on a farm and they only know how to grow potatoes, what happens when the septic tank bursts?
Yeah.
You can't just magically manifest a sanitation engineer because it's innate. Aren't they just guaranteeing their own collapse?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the exact criticism any pragmatist would level at this text. Right. But Sofeng anticipates this, and his counterargument is genuinely staggering. His answer to your question is basically, let it collapse.
He calls it playing house, doesn't he?
Yes. Playing house. Think of it like a sealed terrarium. You put the soil in, you drop in the seeds and the insects, and you just seal the glass lid.
Okay.
If the ecosystem finds a balance and thrives, it's a beautiful thing. But if the algae blooms out of control, consumes all the oxygen, and everything inside dies.
The creator of the terrarium does not break the glass to intervene.
Exactly. You just watch it fail. Sofeng is applying that exact logic to human communities.
But that's a massive cop-out, isn't it? Like, it's very easy to write, "We are just playing house" on a whiteboard in a theoretical essay.
True.
But when the literal roof of the commune caves in the middle of a Canadian winter, human nature kicks in. You can't just philosophize your way out of freezing to death.
And that is the central tension at the heart of the essay. Schuefeng claims they are willing to undertake work that impacts 10 people, or work that impacts all 8 billion people on Earth, but they refuse to strive forcefully for either outcome.
They just detach.
Yes. By framing the entire endeavor as playing house, he is attempting to eradicate the anxiety of ambition. The modern world is so obsessed with legacy, with ensuring our institutions outlive us.
We will compromise our morals, work ourselves to the bone, force people into boxes just to ensure the corporation or the commune survives another decade.
Right. And Schuefeng is saying that survival at the cost of ideological purity is a failure. If the potato economy fails, nature has simply decided the experiment is over.
It is an incredible psychological defense mechanism when you think about it. If you decide in advance that failure is just an acceptable whim of nature, you can never truly be defeated.
Right.
You just say, well, the crops weren't ripe, and you wash your hands and walk away.
Exactly. It removes all the desperation that usually ends up destroying utopian leaders.
Mm.
But as you pointed out, a society of able-bodied, independent adults operating in a total vacuum is a theoretical luxury.
Yeah.
The true stress test of any ideology is how it handles the people who biologically just cannot be radically self-reliant.
The vulnerable. Because you can tell a 30-year-old to figure out their own plane tickets, but you can't tell a newborn baby to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
No, you can't.
The essay actually has to make explicit exceptions for dependents, specifically children and the elderly, and how they filter these exceptions through their harsh philosophy is incredibly revealing.
Let's look at the children first. Schuefeng concedes the obvious physical reality here. Children born or raised in a second home must be nurtured.
Right.
The community takes on the burden of feeding, clothing, and educating them. Because like you said, you can't leave a toddler to navigate the Canadian farm logistics on their own.
But even in their education, they absolutely refuse to bend on the innate nature rule. They aren't putting these kids into coding boot camps at age 5 just to ensure the commune has an IT department in 20 years. They believe whatever the child is destined to be is already completely locked in.
And this leads to a very surprising policy for a closed ideological group. When these children reach adulthood, they are not bound by debt or obligation to the second home.
Right.
If a child turns 18, looks at the potato fields, and decides they'd rather go to a traditional university in a major city, the door is wide open.
There's no guilt trip.
None at all.
Yeah.
Which is a stark contrast to many high-control, utopian, or religious communities, which often employ intense psychological manipulation, isolation, or financial dependence to basically prevent the second generation from ever leaving.
Wow, yeah.
Lifechanyuan's absolute belief in innate nature means they view retention efforts as completely pointless.
Yeah.
If the child doesn't innately resonate with the community, forcing them to stay would just be planting an unripe seed.
So the approach to children actually feels somewhat hands-off and weirdly freeing. But the approach to the elderly, this is where the philosophy gets unapologetically transactional.
Oh, yeah?
This isn't a warm, loving retirement village.
No, it is a strict, earthly balance sheet. The essay outlines a specific contract for old age care. If a member devotes their youth, their physical labor, and their material wealth to building up the second home over the course of their active life.
Then the community reserves resources to guarantee them food, clothing, and medical care when they are old.
Exactly.
It's basically a very strict spiritual pension plan.
That's exactly what it is.
But the caveat Shui Feng attaches to this is brutal. He states, in black and white, that if a member has not contributed significantly to the construction of the community during their capable years, they will not receive care.
They cannot even enter the community in their old age.
Let's really break down the mechanics of that. You cannot spend your life working as an accountant in London, keeping all your money, and then at age 75, when you are tired and need hip surgery, show up at the gates of Lifechanyuan with a suitcase.
Right.
You can't just say, I believe in the way of the greatest creator, please take care of me.
This raises an important question, though, because they will turn you away at the gate. And while that sounds incredibly harsh, especially for a group claiming to seek the kingdom of heaven, it is actually a profound recognition of why most utopian projects fail.
They usually go bankrupt, right?
Almost always. If you look at the history of communes back in the 1960s and 70s, many of them collapsed because they operated on principles of unconditional generosity.
Right, open door policies.
Yeah, anyone could come, eat the food, and sleep in the beds. Very quickly, you get a massive influx of free riders.
People consuming resources without actually producing any.
Exactly. The few people actually doing the farming in the building burn out, the money dries up, and the whole community disintegrates.
So Shui Feng is basically solving the free rider problem with extreme prejudice.
He is.
He is saying, we might be playing house on a macro level, but on a micro level, this house requires literal food and literal heat.
Yes.
The text even says, otherwise, the community cannot sustain itself. It's entirely pragmatic, no contribution, no care.
It really reveals the dual tracks this community operates on. Spiritually, they trust nature completely and detach from all outcomes. But economically, they operate a ruthlessly precise ledger.
You must generate more caloric and material value for the community than you extract, or the system breaks.
Right.
Which brings us to the ultimate thesis of this entire essay. When you synthesize all of these rules, the refusal to train you, the demand that you figure out your own logistics, the willingness to let the potato farm fail, and this strict ledger for your retirement,
Right.
it all points toward one massive psychological pivot that Shui Feng is demanding from anyone reading this text.
He is essentially attempting to completely dismantle the modern power dynamic between the individual and the collective.
The essay lays it out in one crystal clear sentence. He says, it's not Lifechanyuan or the second home that needs you. It's you who needs Lifechanyuan and the second home.
That is a direct challenge to the ego of the reader. We are so conditioned by a consumer capitalist society to view everything as a transaction where we are the prize customer. We enter a new job asking, what are my benefits? Who's going to mentor me? What is my upward trajectory?
And we enter relationships asking, how does this person fulfill my needs? We are inherently extractive.
Exactly. We want to know what we can get. And Shui Feng is just slamming the door on that mindset.
You cannot enter this space looking to be healed, looking to be discovered, or looking to be carried. The community is just an empty stage. It has zero intrinsic need for you to be on it.
He is forcing the individual to shift from an extractive mindset to a purely contributory one. You have to stop asking what the community can do for you and start asking what you're capable of bringing to the community right now, exactly as you are.
So what does this all mean? Think about how that would change your own life. If you applied that rule tomorrow to your workplace or your friend group or even your neighborhood,
It's intense to think about.
if you stripped away all your expectations of being mentored, recognized, or supported, and just asked, what am I innately capable of providing to this space? It is incredibly jarring.
It is jarring because it removes all our usual excuses.
Yeah.
If you fail, you cannot blame a lack of mentorship.
Yeah.
You cannot blame institutional bias. You cannot say the onboarding process was flawed.
You are totally stripped bare.
You either have the goods or you don't.
Yeah.
While most of us would find this environment unbearably cold, Shui Feng would argue it is the only environment where true, unvarnished nature can actually express itself.
And that leaves you with a really unsettling final thought to chew on today. We started by talking about the warm blanket of a utopian community, right?
Right.
But if we follow Shui Feng's logic to its absolute conclusion, if the fundamental purpose of this gathering is just a bunch of solitary individuals striving completely independently to burn off their own personal karmic debt,
Hmm.
If they are forbidden from asking each other for help and they are completely willing to watch the whole thing fail without intervening.
You really have to ask if the word community even applies anymore.
Exactly. Is this actually a community? Or is this just a group of radically isolated, ultra-independent actors who merely happen to be occupying the same geographical space?
That's a great question.
If rule number one of the utopia is we will not help you, you have to wonder if the concept of a shared human endeavor is just another illusion they are trying to leave behind.